Alright, so right now we have all the tools set up to do our dovetail. So all the tools laid out on the bench. We have the marking gauge, which is made up of the stock, the stem and the spur of the needle. Alright, so that's basically a marking tool. We have our sliding bevel, which can be opened up and it is used to mark angles. We have our mallet. Right, a mallet is used for striking either wooden or plastic instruments. We have a tri-square, which is made up of stock and a blade, and it is made for marking square edges and our lines. Right, we have our dovetail template, which we will use to mark out our dovetail angles. Tenon saw. This is the main saw that we use in the workshop, which is used for cutting straight lines. And moving on to our file, right, we have our flat edge file, which is used for marking, which is used for filing and perfecting our edges on our dovetail. Then we have our beveled edge firmer chisels, ranging from our 5mm to 25mm, and our steel rule 300mm long, which is used for marking out. Over the back here we have our G-clamp, which is used for clamping the dovetail and our timber down to the bench, so it is firmly secured at all times. Alright, so the first step to marking out our dovetail is the tail section of the joint. Now before we start, we must have a sharp pencil. A sharp pencil is needed for clear and defined lines. If we don't have that, it's going to just decrease the accuracy that we're going to work with. Alright, so first of all, starting off, we're going to select the one end and simply labeling that end A. And this is going to help guide us through the dovetail construction. From then, we need to mark out the depth or the width of the dovetail. This is simply done by using the opposite make to the dovetail joint. With a line on our dovetail joint, we can then use a tri-square to square the line completely around one end of our joint. Alright, so for ease of working, the dovetail can be placed in the vise, getting our steel rule, measuring 10mm from either side, and marking on the tip of the steel rule. To make sure that we are working accurate, again using the tri-square to square our lines completely across. Right, most dovetails range from 1 to 4 or 1 to 8. For ease of construction, we have a dovetail template to mark out the slope of our dovetails. From the 10mm mark on the end, we are going to mark our dovetail tail. As you can see, we have now marked our tail, which is clearly defined by the A. Once we have marked out the tail, we then move on to cutting, which involves repositioning it in the vise, grabbing our tenon saw. When first sawing, we want to make a curve so that the saw remains in position at all times. Now, the dovetail is on a slope, so we need to angle the tenon saw, follow the angle of our saw, angle of our dovetail slope. From there, what we need to do is maneuver around, following our square lines vertically and horizontally. Removing the waste. Eliminate any confusion. What we should always do is mark the waste. The waste is marked by just highlighting the area by lines or crosses, replicating what has been done on the other side. At all times we must remain outside our marking lines. Right, from this point we have a fully constructed tail. Alright, once the dovetail tail has been tidied up, then we can move on to making the socket. Now, we have already labelled the first one A, so we're going to label the second one A as well. So when you come to assemble it together, A and A will complete and form one corner. Once grabbing your socket board, we can now put the socket board in the vise. As you can see, all my A's are on the exterior of our joint. We want to make our bottoms flush and on the outside flush as well. This is very important for a crucial fit. What I'm doing now is marking the angles on the socket board, as so. Moving on from here, we need to mark the depth. Now the depth is gauged by using our tail board, like so. Once the depth is marked, we can use our tri-square to transfer our dovetail marks down. Now these must be done on both sides, so that when you saw, your cutting is always vertically Alright, what I need to do now is replicate what I've done on the other side on the back. Right. To remove the waste material in between the lines, all we do is use our tenon saw to neatly and tidily follow now it's recommended to make several tenon saw cuts throughout the socket. What this does is allows the waste to be removed easily and cleanly. Now, it is very important to always break the grain. What I'm doing now is clamping our work to the bench. Alright, secured. Right, when using a chisel, always keep your fingers behind the blade, using a mallet to firmly break the grain. This needs to be replicated on the opposite side. Now you would have noticed I've turned the G-clamp over, so the first I first had it was just for demonstration purposes only. We always want to make sure that our workspace is clear. Alright, once we've broken the grain on both sides, what we can do is, using a block, placed on our thickness line or depth, firmly clamped down, we can then work to remove the waste, gradually working down Right, breaking the grain before I'm going to flip it over allows for any chipping or splitting of the timber to be minimized from occurring. Alright, now I need to just replicate this again, clamping it down on our depth. At this point, the waste is easily removed because we are working with the grain. Always keeping my hand behind the blade. All that needs to be done now is testing the socket, the dovetail in the socket. Alright, from this point I can see that I need to remove some more of the waste because there's still a little bit of remaining waste. Now working with the grain, keeping my hand, either using a chisel just to come down slightly, just to widen the socket a little bit. Alright, as you can see it fits in quite nicely now. Now, if it is not fitting flush with that corner, we can then now just slightly file just moving the bottom of the socket until our joint is fitting nice and flush and square.